The auction hall buzzed with voices from 100 alien species. Lights flashed, numbers shouted, and creatures in cages cried or growled. But now at the very end of the auction, only one cage remained on the platform. Inside it, a small alien. Girl stood, her hands chained tightly. She looked small, but her glowing eyes burned with pure rage. Her pale blue skin was marked with scars, and her sharp teeth showed whenever she growled. The auctioneer, a fat creature with 6 eyes, cleared his throat and spoke loudly. "Behold the last prize of today's auction," he announced. "This one is special, dangerous, and untamable," he warned. "Many have tried to own her, but she bit off a buyer's hand and blinded another." The crowd chuckled nervously, stepping back. No one wanted a wild beast in their home, even if she looked young and fragile. The girl stared back at them, her eyes full of hate. She didn't beg for mercy, nor did she cry. She stood tall despite the chains, daring anyone to come closer to her. Every alien here was the same cowards who saw her as a thing. She hated them all. The auctioneer raised his voice again. "Starting bid 10,000 credits, he said. Silence followed. No one raised a hand, no one spoke. Even the richest buyers knew better than to purchase something that might kill them in their sleep. Then, from the back of the hall, a deep voice echoed, "I'll pay 20,000 credits." Everyone turned in surprise. It was a human, tall and broad, with calm eyes and a scar across his cheek. Humans were rare here, and few expected one to attend such auctions. But he stood there, serious and confident. The auctioneer laughed nervously. "Sir, I must warn you," he said. "She is uncontrollable. She doesn't speak, she only fights." The human simply nodded. "I'll take her," he replied. 40,000 credits, final offer." Gasps filled the room. 40,000 for a creature no one wanted. Was the human insane? But the auctioneer, seeing the credits flash on his scanner, smiled wide. "Sold." He shouted, "Sold to the human bidder." The girl narrowed her eyes. She watched the human approach, expecting pain, another master who would whip her, cage her tighter, or throw her to fight for amusement. Her body tensed, ready to attack. The moment she could break free, the human stood before her cage. Their eyes met. His gaze was calm, not cruel. Without a word, he pulled out a small device and unlocked her cage. The guards nearby stood ready, expecting blood. But the human raised a hand, signaling them to stay back. Slowly, he opened cage. The girl bared her teeth, crouching low like an animal ready to leap. But he did something strange. He sat down in front of the cage, legs crossed, showing his empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. The girl tilted her head, confused. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. "My name is Ronan," the human said. "You don't have to fight me." His voice was deep but gentle. He didn't move closer, didn't grab her. He just waited. Minutes passed in tense silence. The crowd murmured, watching the strange scene. But Ronan didn't rush. Finally, the girl crawled forward, just enough to sniff the air around him. She caught his scent different from others, not smelling of fear or anger. Still, she didn't trust him. She stayed on the edge of the cage, watching him closely. Ronan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small packet. Inside was dried meat, seasoned and rich in scent. He placed it gently on the floor between them. "You're probably hungry," he said. She stared at the food, then at him. Hunger gnawed at her, but she hated showing weakness. Still, the smell was too good. Slowly, she crawled forward and grabbed the meat. She devoured it quickly, eyes never leaving him. Ronan smiled. "That's better," he said. "You can eat as much as you want once we leave this place." The girl didn't understand him fully, but she understood kindness when she saw it. No beatings, no chains, just food and calm words. She didn't know what to think. Ronan stood up slowly. "Let's go," he said, holding out a hand. She flinched but didn't back away. Instead, she stood, her legs shaky but strong. The guards tried to move forward, but Ronan glared at them. "She walks free, or I'll take my credits back," he warned, reluctantly. The guards stepped aside. The girl stepped out of the cage. The chains still clinking around her wrists, Ronan walked beside her, not holding her, not forcing her. Together, they walked out of the auction hall, leaving behind the stares and whispers. The girl didn't know where this human was taking her, but for the first time, a tiny flame of curiosity burned within her. Who was this strange human who bought a monster but treated her like a person? She didn't know, but she was going to find out. She had been owned before, but never like this. The girl walked beside the human, her chain still cold around her wrists. Yet, no one dragged her. No one whipped her to move faster. The human walked in silence, leading her through the dim-lit alleys of the alien city. Neon lights glowed above them. Strange music echoed from distant taverns. Every alien they passed stared, some in curiosity, others in pity. But none dared interfere her. Mine screamed at her to run, to claw his back open. Yet, her legs kept moving beside him. There was something strange about this human. He didn't smell of fear, didn't reek of cruelty like others. Finally, they stopped in front of a rusty old door. Ronan tapped a code, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside was a small room. Dusty but warm, a simple bed, a table, a chair, and a shelf with strange human things. The girl stepped inside, cautious, eyes darting for exits. Ronan closed the door gently behind them, then turned to face her. "Sit if you want," he said, placing his bag on the table. "I'm not your master, I don't own you." She stood frozen, confused. No one had ever said that to her before. If he didn't own her, why buy her? Ronan approached slowly, holding a small tool in his hand. "Let me get those chains off," he said. She backed away, baring her teeth. He raised his hands, showing no threat. "I won't hurt you," he promised. "But those chains aren't you. They're just the past." Something about his voice made her pause. She hesitated, then slowly extended her arms. Ronan worked quietly, his tool humming softly. The chains clicked and loosened, finally falling to the ground with a heavy thud. Her wrists felt light, raw skin exposed to air again. She stared at her hands, free for the first time in years. She could attack him now, sink her claws into his flesh. But she didn't. Ronan stepped back, sitting on the chair. "You're free now," he said. "You can leave if you want." She blinked, confused. Why wasn't he locking her up? Why wasn't he scared? Why? She whispered, her voice rough and unused. "Why not chain me?" Ronan looked at her, his eyes calm and tired. "Because I've seen enough cages in my life," he said. "Not just iron ones, but the ones people wear in their minds." His words meant little to her, but his tone. It was soft, like a breeze in a storm. She didn't run. She didn't attack. Instead, she sat on the floor, hugging her knees, watching him. She waited for the trick, the hidden whip, the command, but none came. Ronan opened a packet of food. Real food, not the filthy scraps she was fed in cages. He placed a plate in front of her, without pushing. "Eat," he said. She sniffed it carefully, then took a bite. Her stomach growled, betraying her. She ate more faster, not wanting to show her hunger, but unable to resist. Ronan chuckled softly. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked up with sharp eyes. "Name?" She muttered. She had no name, only curses thrown at her. Monster, beast, filth. Ronan shook his head. "That won't do," he said. "You need a name." He thought for a moment, then smiled. "Lyra," he said. "Your name is Lyra." She repeated it softly to herself. Lyra. It sounded strange, but good. It was hers, not given by a slaver, but by a human who looked at her without hate. "Why did you buy me?" she asked finally. Ronan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Because no one else saw you," he said. "They saw a wild thing. A danger, a monster. But I saw a person trapped in pain." Lyra didn't know how to respond. Her whole life had been chains, fights, screams. What was she without them? That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in the corner of the room, watching Ronan as he slept on the bed. He didn't chain her. Didn't even lock the door. She could have left, disappeared into the dark city, but she didn't, because for the first time, someone had called her a name. For the first time, someone had seen her, not as a beast, but as Lyra, and though she didn't understand it yet, that was enough to make her stay. She had learned to speak with her claws, now for the first time. She wondered if words were stronger. The small room remained quiet, with only the faint hum of city lights outside. Lyra sat in the corner, knees to her chest, staring at the human, who slept on the bed. She hadn't run. Though the door remained unlocked, she hadn't killed him. Though her claws were free, she waited, watching, searching for any sign of a trick. But Ronan simply slept, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. No chains, no whips, no cages, just silence and a warm space. Lyra didn't know what to do with such freedom. Her life had been nothing but commands, fights and pain. Now no one told her what to do, and that scared her more than any cage. Morning came with a soft beep from a device on the table. Ronan groaned, waking slowly, his eyes meeting hers instantly. He smiled, not the grin of a master over his pet, but a tired smile of someone who knew suffering too well. "You're still here," he said gently. Lyra nodded slowly, her throat dry. She hadn't spoken much in years. Ronan sat up, stretching his arms. "I was afraid you'd vanish," he admitted. "Why?" Lyra rasped, her voice like broken glass. Ronan looked at her, surprised. "That's the first thing you've said to me," he chuckled. She frowned, confused by his amusement. "Why? Did you think I'd run?" she asked, struggling with the words. "Because you were caged for so long," he said. "Most would flee the first chance they get." Lyra's eyes darkened. "And go where?" She whispered. "The world out there wants me dead." Ronan's smile faded. "You're not wrong," he admitted. "But you're not alone anymore." She tilted her head, skeptical. "What do you want from me?" She asked bluntly. "No. One does anything for free." Ronan stood and grabbed 2 cups, pouring water into both. He handed one to her, careful not to startle her. "I want nothing," he said. "I bought you because I couldn't watch them keep you locked like an animal. I've seen too many like you, locked in cages of metal. Or cages of the mind." Lyra sipped the water, her throat grateful even if her mind wasn't sure. "No chains, no orders?" she asked. "No," Ronan said firmly. "You're free to stay or leave, but if you stay, we'll figure things out. Together." Together, that word sounded alien to her. "Why call me Lyra?" she asked next. "Because everyone deserves a name," Ronan replied. "And you deserved one a long time ago." She looked down at her hands, scarred and rough hands that had only hurt others. "Lyra," she whispered again, testing the sound. It felt strange, but nice. Ronan smiled, seeing her repeat it. "You have a strong voice," he said. "Don't let anyone steal it again." Lyra's heart twisted, unfamiliar feelings stirring. She was used to fists, chains, and blood, not words that made her chest ache. Her claws could tear flesh, but these words, they made her feel seen, and that was more terrifying than any fight. "What are you?" she asked suddenly. "No one talks like you," Ronan chuckled, taking a seat. "I'm human," he said. "Humans are stubborn creatures. We don't like seeing others suffer." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Yet your kind sells weapons and slaves, too," she pointed out. Ronan's eyes grew distant. "Yeah," he sighed. "Some humans are worse than monsters." Silence stretched between them. But this time, it was not heavy, it was thoughtful. Lyra stared at her wrists where the chains had left marks. She touched them, feeling the ridges of the scars. "What now?" she asked. "What do I do now?" Ronan looked at her with a soft gaze. "You decide," he said. "You can stay here, or I can help you find a place in the galaxy. But whatever you choose, no one will ever chain you again, not while I breathe." His words settled deep within her. She didn't know why, but she believed him. Perhaps because he was the first to give her a choice. Perhaps because he didn't look at her like she was a beast. She stood slowly, her knees weak but steady. "I'll stay," she whispered. For now. She added quickly, as if scared of committing. Ronan smiled wider. Good, he said. Then let's start with breakfast. He turned to prepare food, leaving Lyra standing awkwardly. She didn't know what breakfast meant, but she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she had spoken not with claws, but with words, and someone had listened. Asterisk, the girl had scars on her skin, but the deepest ones were buried in her memories. Days passed in quiet rhythms inside the small room. Lyra stayed, watching the human called Ronan go about his life. He cooked, cleaned, tinkered with strange devices. Yet he never raised his voice, never demanded she work. She didn't understand it. No master, no orders, just space to breathe. But at night, when the city lights flickered outside the window, nightmares returned. She saw cages, heard screams, felt the sting of whips. In her sleep, her body trembled, teeth bared, claws twitching. One night the nightmare was worse. She cried out in her sleep. Thrashing in the corner, Ronan woke up to the sound. Without a word, he sat near her, careful not to touch her. It's just a dream, Lyra, he said softly. You're safe here. She woke with a gasp, her eyes wild, breath heavy. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw Ronan, sitting calmly, no chains, no whip. Just him, waiting. Lyra swallowed hard, wiping sweat from her forehead. I see them, she whispered. The ones who took me. Ronan nodded. Tell me, he said. Tell me who they were. She hesitated, then looked away. They called themselves the Crowlith. She muttered. Tall creatures, gray skin, eyes like pits. They raided my village when I was small. They killed many, took the rest, including me. Ronan listened without interrupting. His eyes didn't widen in pity or disgust. He simply listened, like her story mattered. They made us fight, Lyra continued, her voice hollow. Children, forced to fight each other for their entertainment. If you won, you lived another day. If you lost, you didn't wake up. Ronan clenched his fist softly. His jaw tightened. I'm sorry, he said quietly. No one should go through that. Lyra laughed bitterly. Sorry doesn't change scars, she said. Sorry doesn't bring back the ones I had to kill to stay alive. Silence wrapped around them. But it wasn't cold. It was heavy, filled with truth. You survived, Ronan said finally. And that takes strength. More strength than most will ever know. Lyra looked at him sharply. Strength? She spat. They made me into a monster. Every night I hear the screams of the ones I tore apart. I didn't want to, but I had to. Ronan's gaze didn't flinch. You're not a monster, he said firmly. A monster chooses cruelty. You did what you had to do to survive. She stared at him, searching for a lie, but he meant it. Every word, he meant it. No one told me that before, she whispered. Everyone just called me a beast, a killer. They're wrong. Ronan replied, and if I ever meet the Crowlith, they'll wish they hadn't crossed paths with me. His voice was low. Dangerous. Lyra believed him. She saw the fire behind his calm eyes. This human carried his own scars. She realized different scars, but just as deep. What about you? She asked. What made you so kind? Ronan chuckled softly. Kind? That's a first, he muttered. Then he looked up at the ceiling, his expression distant. I was a soldier once, he confessed. Fought in human wars, saw friends die. Killed enemies before they could kill me. I watched too many. Good people become numbers. So when I see someone like you, lost in pain, I can't walk away. Lyra watched him quietly, a soldier, just like she was forced to be. But he had chosen his fights, she hadn't. Is that why you bought me? She asked. Because I remind you of your dead friends? Ronan shook his head. No, he said. Because I saw someone who deserved the second chance. And maybe I'm looking for mine too. Lyra didn't know what to say. She just sat there, feeling something heavy lift from her chest. Someone understood. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough that night. She didn't tremble as much in her sleep, and When the nightmares came, she whispered to herself, "I'm not a monster," because for the first time, she almost believed it. She thought the past was behind her, but the past had sharp claws that could still find her. Lyra had begun to feel the weight of the chains lifting from her mind. Days with Ronan made her feel less like an animal and more like someone. She learned new words, tasted real food, even smiled once when Ronan made a joke. It was strange, uncomfortable, but warm. For the first time, she wondered what life could be without cages. But peace, she learned, never lasted long. It started one evening when Ronan stepped out to gather supplies. Lyra stayed behind, sitting by the window. She watched the neon lights of the city and the aliens walking by. Their faces no longer filled her with fear or hate, just distance. Then, she felt a chill down her spine. Her ears twitched. Her nose caught an old, familiar scent. She stood up sharply, her heart pounding. That smell. She knew it from childhood, Krolith. Suddenly, the door burst open. Smashed from the outside, Lyra spun, claws out, her body ready before her mind caught up. 3 tall figures stepped in. Gray-skinned, eyes like dark pits, Krolith hunters. Well, one sneered. The little beast thought she could hide. Lyra's breath grew sharp. Her body remembered the pain, the terror. But this time she wasn't chained. "How did you find me?" she hissed. The Krolith laughed. "Did you think we'd forget our favorite fighter? Word spreads fast, little beast. A human buying you at an auction? Foolish." Lyra's claws twitched. She could take 1, maybe 2, but not all 3. Still, she wouldn't go back. Not alive. One of the Krolith stepped forward. "Come quietly, and we'll make your death slow." He grinned. Lyra lunged. With a scream, her claws slashing, she caught one by surprise, ripping his arm. But the others struck back hard. A fist slammed into her ribs, sending her crashing into the wall. She coughed, tasting blood, but stood up again. She wasn't the weak child they once broke. She was Lyra now with a name, as she prepared to fight again. The door behind them swung wide open. Ronan stood there, eyes wide at the scene. Without hesitation, he pulled a device from his coat, a small blaster. He fired, hitting one Krolith in the leg. The creature howled. "You think that's enough, human?" The tallest Krolith roared. Ronan charged, no fear in his eyes. Lyra watched in awe. He wasn't trained like a soldier anymore, but he fought like one. Together, they attacked, she with her claws, he with his fists and blaster. But the Krolith were strong, brutal. One caught Ronan by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Lyra screamed, clawing at the attacker, but another grabbed her, pinning her arms. She thrashed, kicked, bit, but she was losing. Ronan struggled, gasping, "Run! Lyra, run!" He choked out, "Run?" She remembered running all her life, running from pain, from death, from the past. But not this time. Not now. She roared a sound that shook the room. Her eyes burned. Her body screamed in pain. She broke free, slamming her captor against the wall. With fury and desperation, she leapt onto the one choking Ronan. Her claws tore at his face, his eyes. He dropped Ronan, screaming. Blood splattered, the scent fueling her rage. She didn't stop. Not until the Krolith stopped moving. The others backed away, fear finally in their dark eyes. They hadn't expected the wild girl to fight for anyone but herself. "She's changed," one muttered. "She's broken." "No," Lyra growled, standing between Ronan and them. "I'm not broken. I'm more than you ever made me." The Krolith cursed and fled. Dragging their wounded, Lyra watched them go. Chest heaving, body shaking. Then she turned to Ronan, who coughed weakly on the floor. "Hey, you all right?" she whispered, kneeling beside him. Ronan grinned through the pain. "Takes more than that to kill me," he rasped. She helped him sit up. For a moment, neither spoke. Their breaths were heavy, the room a mess, blood on the walls. "You stayed," Ronan said softly. "You didn't run." Lyra looked at her blood-stained hands. "I'm done running," she said quietly. "You gave me a name, and no one takes that from me. For the first time, she realized something powerful. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for him, for Ronan, the human who saw her not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as a person, and she wasn't about to lose that. Asterisk. She had fought for herself before, but this was the first time she fought for someone else. The room still smelled of blood and smoke. Lyra stood in the middle of the chaos, her body aching. Her claws dripped with dark Krolith blood. Ronan sat against the wall, breathing heavily. His face bruised but alive. For a long time neither of them spoke. They just sat there, two survivors in a ruined room. Finally, Ronan chuckled weakly. "You fought like a storm," he said. "Remind me never to make you angry." Lyra gave a small, tired smile. "You would have died if I didn't," she replied. Her voice was soft, but her heart thundered in her chest. She didn't know why she felt this way. The need to protect him, to see him alive, it was strange, new. She helped him to his feet. Together, they moved to the bed, Ronan collapsing onto it with a groan. Lyra fetched water, cloth, and medicine from the shelf. She had watched him treat small wounds before. Now it was her turn. She pressed the cloth against his bruises. Ronan winced but smiled. "Didn't know you had a healer's touch," he teased. "I don't," Lyra said bluntly. "But I'm learning." She cleaned his wounds carefully. Every mark on his skin made her chest ache. This human had no reason to fight for her, yet he did. "Why didn't you run, Lyra?" Ronan asked suddenly. "You could have escaped while they grabbed me." Lyra paused, her eyes meeting his. "I told you," she said. "I'm done running. Running never gave me a name or a place. But you gave me both." Ronan's smile faded into something gentler. "Lyra," he whispered, "I didn't save you to own you. I just wanted you to have a life, and I'm choosing to stay." She replied firmly, "Not because I'm owned, but because I want to." The room grew quiet again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was warm, like a hidden fire in winter. Lyra sat beside the bed, her body exhausted but her mind awake. She had never chosen anything in her life, but this was her choice. The next morning, Ronan's strength returned slowly. Lyra remained close, watching the door, listening for any sign of return. But the Krolith didn't come back. They had seen something they didn't understand. A wild girl who defended a human, not herself. "Do you think they'll come again?" Lyra asked. "One day, maybe," Ronan admitted. "But next time we'll be ready, we?" She asked, raising an eyebrow. Ronan chuckled. "Yes, we," he said. "I'm not sending you away. And you're clearly not leaving." Lyra smiled faintly. She liked the sound of that "we." They spent days training. Ronan taught her how to handle a blaster, how to aim. Lyra taught him how to move silently, how to sense enemies in shadows. Together, they made each other stronger. One evening, after hours of practice, they sat by the window. The city lights blinked like distant stars. Ronan looked at Lyra, studying her. "You've changed," he said. Lyra tilted her head. "How?" "You're not the same girl from the auction," he said. "Back then, you looked ready to tear my throat out." Lyra smirked. "I still could," she teased. "But I won't." "Why not?" Ronan asked with a grin. She looked at him seriously. "Because I'd rather protect you," she admitted. Her voice was quiet, almost shy. Ronan's smile softened. "And I'll protect you," he said. "Because you're not just some wild girl to me. You're Lyra, my friend." Friend, that word echoed in her mind. She had never been anyone's friend before. "I like that," she whispered. "Friend." They sat together, watching the city, two survivors from two different worlds. Bound not by chains, but by choice, and somewhere deep inside, Lyra felt something she thought she'd never feel again. She felt safe. A monster in chains was a story people knew, but a monster choosing to stay? That was something new. Word spread across the city. The story of the human who bought the wild alien girl and lived. Whispers traveled through markets, bars, and dark alleys. They spoke of the girl with claws sharper than blades. who protected the human instead of killing him. Some called it a trick, others called it madness. But no one could deny what had happened. The Krolith, the feared hunters, had fled. And the human and his alien companion still stood. For Lyra, life had changed beyond recognition. She no longer sat in corners waiting for pain. She stood beside Ronan, walked the streets openly. Her eyes met others, not with hate, but with curiosity. Aliens stared, some with fear, some with wonder. No one had seen an untamable creature walking freely beside a human. Ronan didn't chain her, didn't hold her by force, and yet she stayed. One day, in a crowded market, a merchant dared to approach. "You're the girl from the auction," he said, his voice trembling. Lyra's eyes narrowed, but Ronan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "She has a name," Ronan said firmly. "She's Lyra." The merchant gulped and nodded. "I meant no disrespect," he said. "But why stay with him? You could escape anywhere." Lyra looked at the merchant, her voice steady. "Because he sees me," she said simply, "and I see him." The answer left the merchant speechless. No one expected a creature like her to speak of choice, of trust. News traveled further, reaching beyond the city. Other worlds heard tales of the human and his alien protector. Some called it a bond, others a manipulation. But for Lyra, it didn't matter what they called it. She knew the truth. She wasn't a pet, wasn't a slave. She was Lyra free, fierce, and standing by her own choice. At night, Ronan and Lyra often sat by the window, watching the stars blink in the dark sky. One night, Lyra asked quietly, "Do you think I'll always be seen as a monster?" Ronan shook his head. "No," he said, "not if they hear your story. Not if they see who you really are." Lyra thought about that. "I want them to know," she admitted. "I want them to see I'm more than what they made me." Ronan smiled. "Then we'll show them," he said. Together, they started small, helping others in the city. A stolen child returned to her family. A gang of slavers stopped in their tracks. Each act spread their names further, the human with the wild alien girl who fought not for coin, but for justice. And every time, when someone asked, Ronan always said the same. "She's not a pet, she's my partner." Lyra stood taller with those words, her back straight, her eyes bright. She was no longer a creature of the dark. She was someone the world watched, not with fear, but with respect. One day, as they prepared to leave the city for another world, Ronan looked at her with a grin. "Are you ready to show the galaxy what you're made of, Lyra?" She smiled back, claws flexing playfully. "I was born ready," she said. "But this time, I'm not fighting alone." And as their ship lifted off, the stars above seemed less distant, because for the first time, Lyra wasn't just surviving, she was living, and the galaxy was watching.